Hello again, I'm back and today we'll be discussing at long last Damian Al Ghul. But first, and as usual, I'd like to thank my wonderful patrons for making these episodes possible. Now to kick things off, I'd note that I didn't have the best introduction to Damian, namely it was through the Batman and Son DC movieverse. This was followed up by seeing some either out of context or highly isolated stuff, some of which had nothing to do with Damian, showing certain writers' disregard for adoption, found family, etc. Plus, just a whole lot of fanon, which is another way of saying I'm placing the blame squarely on you, the viewers, and the writers. Seriously though, that impression did stick until I started actually, reading comics and meta. Suffice to say, there is some heavy fanon around poor Damian, so let's see if we can help rectify that. Part 1. Damian isn't a eugenicist who thinks he's better than everyone because of his parents. He might reference his parents at times, but it's not in a my blood way, but more of a my mum could kick your ass way, and he's usually right. Much of that characterization, particularly the heavy emphasis on blood, can be tied back to the movie, but even in the comics, what contentions there were around such matters were resolved fairly straightforwardly in a character arc. That is to say that a lot of the fanon was already built around an exaggeration, but it's an exaggeration of behaviour only nominally exhibited for a brief period of time before character development. I'd also note that a lot of that early behaviour can be pretty easily filed under he's 10 in a very alienating new situation that's not at all what he was told to expect. People don't always handle that stuff gracefully, least of all children. Whatever the case, Damian knows his family extends beyond just Bruce and Talia and acts accordingly. Much of the problematic writing on that front from canon has more to do with the writers not acknowledging familial bonds, not in Damian's actual behaviour. Point 2. Damian was raised in such a way that he naturally looked up to Bruce a lot. He was then brought to Gotham and his dad was dead, leaving him with Dick, but when Bruce came back to life and they got to work together, oh boy, were his preconceptions about what his dad was like dashed or what? Seriously though, his hopes really were dashed. Bruce quickly proved himself cold, aloof, really insensitive, controlling, barely aware of Damian's efforts to reach out to him, and was generally very hard on him, often in really weird or incoherent ways. Suffice to say, it's not a shock Damian at one point noted it was easier to look up to Bruce when he was gone, but in less dramatic points, Damian was more than happy to snark at his father, and while he still respected and listened to him to varying degrees, he's not some obedient little soldier. He's a child, and more than happy to act accordingly. That's my boy. Part 3. Damian isn't some gleeful killer or vicious wild child stereotype constantly wanting to fight everyone. Yes, his backstory puts him as raised by the League and his grandfather to view killing as an acceptable means of dealing with a problem. This doesn't mean Damian is actively murderous. At most, he's inured or otherwise desensitized to it, which is actually traumatic rather than a reflection on moral fortitude. Though as one eventually comes to see, that kind of conditioning still has its limits, i.e. Goliath's family. But more to the point, this attitude tends to get mixed in with the whole feral meme, which, look, I love memes too, but they can very easily run away with someone's characterization. I'm going to slide by the obvious and unseemly implications of characterizing Damian Al Ghul as a, finger quotes, feral child, because they are self-evident and we only have so much time in a day. But Damian, for all the issues of being raised by the way his grandfather wanted, was still essentially a prince of the League. He's an artist, musician, even been schooled in matters of business by his mother who rocked the world as LexCorp's head. He also reads shoujo manga and yes, likes to adopt animals, which is extremely cute. He's really not that or at all fight prone unless something specific angers him, which is true for all the characters, or when he's desperately trying to prove himself, which is more a reflection of insecurity than anything else. I think that some of the confusion comes from Damian's penchant for being blunt, snippy, and again, a child who's kind of rude, with this being seen as temperamental and rageaholic, when he's really more of a preppy aristocrat. Though he is by no means a peppy aristocrat. I thought it was funny. Anyway, that's it for now, as I just wanted to cover some broad strokes today. There's definitely more to say about Damian, like how they should totally bring back he and Steph's adorable sibling relationship, DC, but for now, this is where I will leave you. If you would like to help support these episodes and get early access to scripts, videos, stories and art, please hit up my Patreon. If you would like to commission 3D art, please swing by my coffee and we can chat. For now though, that's all. Thanks for stopping by.